The market cannot be controlled, and the next move is always unknown. Your only true power lies in how you choose to respond. To never lose money is not a promise of avoiding losses. That is impossible. It is a vow to never lose yourself in the process. The real loss is not measured in your account balance. It occurs in your mind. Each emotional reaction, every trade driven by fear or revenge, is a surrender of control. The market, as a teacher, will repeat the lesson until it is learned. The path forward is to stop resisting loss. Accept it, embrace it as an inevitable part of the journey. When you cease fighting what is unavoidable, you cease losing emotionally. It is from this stillness that consistent action emerges. Professional traders do not operate on knowing what comes next. They operate on knowing how they will behave when it does. This is their edge, the calm control that transforms every outcome into mere information, every mistake into neutral data. Each trade becomes feedback, honing discipline and reinforcing a belief in process over prediction. When you adopt this mindset, the game shifts from the pursuit of money to the pursuit of mastery. And the one who masters themselves never truly loses, because they have stopped equating financial outcomes with personal worth. Most people build their lives around avoiding loss, structuring their actions and emotions to shield themselves from pain and failure. Yet, this very fear ensures they will lose repeatedly. Loss is not an external event. It is an internal creation, a story you attach to results. The market is indifferent. It does not judge or care. It simply moves, reflecting collective behavior and probability. The meaning you assign to an outcome is entirely your own. When people speak of losing money, they are really describing the emotional shock of an unexpected result. They confuse being wrong with being punished, but a loss is just a moment in time, neutral feedback from a dynamic system. What you truly lose is the illusion of control, of certainty, of knowing what comes next. When that illusion shatters, the ego feels exposed. This is the pain we call loss. To redefine it, you must first detach yourself, worth from outcomes. Most traders tie their identity to their results. A win validates them, a loss diminishes them. This emotional pendulum destroys consistency and clouds objectivity. The first step is to recognize that outcomes are inherently neutral. A trade that moves against you is not a failure, it is information. It may reveal a misalignment in your strategy, a lapse in discipline, or simply the randomness of probability. When you truly understand this, you stop feeling attacked by the market. Once you stop defining yourself by wins and losses, you become free. Free to act without hesitation, to follow your plan without fear, to see reality without distortion. Losing ceases to feel like defeat and becomes learning. Consider a child learning to walk. They fall constantly, but never interpret it as failure. Each fall teaches balance and adjustment. As adults, we attach shame to mistakes, believing they expose our weakness. But in trading, as in life, losses are unavoidable. They are part of the natural flow of probability. The professional understands this. They see a losing trade not as punishment, but as an expected event within a statistical framework. The amateur, however, takes each loss personally. They hesitate, overtrade, or chase revenge. That emotional reaction, not the loss itself, does the real damage. The market can only hurt you if you permit it. Your thoughts about the outcome create the pain, not the outcome. If you risk a predefined 1% of your capital and lose, nothing catastrophic has occurred. It is a managed cost of doing business. But if you tie yourself worth to that 1%, the loss becomes unbearable, triggering a cycle of emotional decisions. Redefining loss means seeing losses not as obstacles, but as feedback mechanisms. They show where your beliefs clash with market reality. Every trade expresses a belief about what is likely to happen next. When that belief is disproven, it is an opportunity for examination, not shame. The trader who learns this evolves rapidly because they stop resisting reality and focus instead on refining their process. True mastery arrives when you stop judging yourself for losing. When losses are accepted as part of the game, you escape the emotional roller coaster. Consistency is only possible when your inner state no longer depends on winning or losing. Imagine approaching every decision with the same calm focus, regardless of outcome. This is the professional's mindset, present, opportunistic, and at peace with uncertainty. When you redefine losing, you also redefine risk. Risk is not something to avoid, but something to manage. The person who fears loss hesitates and misses opportunities. The person who accepts loss as part of the process acts decisively, adapts fluidly, and stays focused on the long term. Success does not come from a perfect strategy. Perfection is an illusion. It comes from mindset, how you respond to imperfection. When you make peace with losing, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. The market is energy in motion. Your job is not to control it, but to align with it. To never lose money, you must stop defining loss in emotional terms. Financial capital will fluctuate, but psychological capital, your emotional control, discipline, and self-trust, is the true asset. Every time you remain calm after a loss, you compound that capital. Every time you stick to your plan, you build self-trust. Every lesson learned builds resilience. This inner strength translates directly into external results. So, the next time you face a loss in trading, business, or life, pause. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" That simple shift transforms pain into power, confusion into clarity, and loss into growth. You realize that losing was never the real problem, your definition of it was. When that definition changes, fear disappears, frustration fades. What remains is pure awareness, the ability to see things as they are, without distortion. You stop chasing perfection. You stop needing to be right. You focus on being aligned, consistent, and present. You operate with the confidence of someone who knows that no single trade defines their future. When your mindset aligns with this truth, there is no such thing as losing. There is only learning, growing, and becoming more attuned to the flow of probability and opportunity. At this point, you have transcended the emotional traps that hold most people back. You are no longer afraid of the market, uncertainty, or failure. You understand that losing is not the opposite of winning. It is part of winning. Every loss is a stepping stone toward mastery. And in that realization, you grasp what it truly means to never lose money. Most people believe success depends on predicting outcomes, that certainty will bring safety and control. But this illusion is the trap. The moment your emotional stability depends on an outcome, you surrender your power. The market owes you nothing, not certainty, not fairness, not reward. Your only freedom lies in your response. Detaching emotion from outcome does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing the outcome to feel okay. Most traders tie their emotional state directly to performance, elated when winning, anxious when losing. This roller coaster destroys consistency. The way out is to accept that outcomes are neutral. They do not define you. They simply reflect the interaction between your behavior and the market's movement. The market is a mirror. When you attach emotion to the outcome, you distort the reflection. You see what you want to see, not what is there. But when you detach, you see clearly. The market is not your opponent. It simply exists. Your job is to align with it through discipline and objectivity. Emotional control does not come after success. It comes before it. True consistency begins when you are no longer emotionally affected by winning or losing. Once you detach from the need for a specific outcome, your mind is free to execute flawlessly. You follow your plan not because you know what will happen, but because you trust your process. In any decision, you control only two things: your preparation and your response. Everything else is uncertainty. You might have an 80% edge, but that means 20% of the time you will lose. If you cannot emotionally accept that 20%, you will never trade the 80% effectively. Fear of loss, of being wrong, of missing out leads to hesitation and self-sabotage. Detachment is not about becoming cold or robotic. It is about becoming free. It is a quiet confidence rooted in process, not results. If you execute a trade according to your plan and it loses, that is still a success. You acted in alignment with your rules, you respected probability, you stayed consistent, define success by process, and you build a stable foundation. Define it by outcome, and your foundation will always be shaky because outcomes fluctuate. Emotional attachment stems from expectation. The stronger your expectation, the stronger your reaction when reality diverges. You cannot control the market, but you can control your expectations. Release the need for things to go a certain way, and internal resistance dissolves. The present moment becomes clear. You act, observe, and adjust. You do not force, chase, or react. This is trading in the zone, a state of effortless flow where you are fully engaged yet emotionally detached. To reach this state, you must train your mind to accept uncertainty as normal. Most people fear uncertainty, associating it with danger. But uncertainty is the natural state of markets and of life itself. The moment you accept it, you stop fighting reality. Peace enters, the noise fades, the need to be right disappears. You act because your plan tells you it is time to act. This is the discipline that creates consistency. Every time you let an outcome affect your emotions, you reinforce the belief that your happiness depends on external events. That belief drains your energy. You begin chasing the market, seeking validation. But the market validates no one. The only validation that matters comes from within, from knowing you did what you were supposed to do, regardless of result. That is true confidence. Emotional detachment is also about trust. Trust in your edge, your preparation, and your ability to adapt. You do not need to know what will happen next. You only need to know that you will follow your rules, manage your risk, and execute without hesitation. From this mindset, you become unstoppable not because you always win, but because losing does not shake you. Your behavior is no longer influenced by short-term outcomes. Every action builds long-term results through probability. As you become more detached, trading becomes less dramatic. There is no rush, no panic, no emotional highs or lows. It becomes simple, almost boring. This is the paradox of mastery. The excitement fades, but the results grow. Professionals trade for consistency, not excitement. Emotional neutrality is the foundation of sustainable success. Imagine approaching every trade without anxiety. You see the setup, execute your plan, and accept whatever happens next without emotional turbulence. That is freedom, that is detachment. When you operate from this place, you are not trying to prove anything. You are simply following probabilities, and because of that, you win more often with less stress and fewer mistakes. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means balance. It means caring deeply about your craft and your process, but not about any single outcome. It is about doing your job well and letting the results take care of themselves. Every trade is just another expression of your edge. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you move on. You neither celebrate nor mourn. You observe and adjust. The real challenge is training your emotions to follow your logic. Understanding detachment intellectually is not enough. You must practice it through real experience, through wins and losses. Every time you react calmly to a losing trade, you rewire your brain. You teach yourself that loss is not danger, that uncertainty is safe. Over time, this conditioning builds an inner peace. From that peace, clarity emerges. You start to see patterns more easily, not because you are smarter, but because your perception is no longer clouded by fear or greed. The market hasn't changed, you have. You are no longer interpreting data through emotional bias. You are simply responding to what is there. This clarity is your true edge. It lies not in predicting the future, but in perceiving the present and responding without interference. When you reach this level of detachment, trading stops feeling like a battle. It becomes an exercise in awareness. You flow with the market. You do not fight it. You control your response, not the outcomes. You embrace probability instead of seeking certainty. Your performance stabilizes. You stop overtrading, forcing trades, or chasing losses. You become consistent because your mind is consistent. Ultimately, detaching emotion from outcome is about reclaiming your power. As long as your happiness depends on external events, you are a slave to circumstances. But when you anchor your peace within, when satisfaction comes from discipline, process, and self-mastery, nothing can shake you. Wins and losses become background noise. You move through the market with calm confidence, knowing no single result defines you. This mindset applies beyond trading to relationships, careers, and all of life's endeavors. The more you attach to a specific outcome, the more suffering you create. The more you let go, the more free you become. Detachment is not apathy, it is trust. Trust in yourself, in the process, and in the flow of life. When you finally detach emotion from outcome, you stop living reactively. You are no longer pulled by the highs of winning or the lows of losing. You find balance, you find presence, and from that stillness, your true potential unfolds, because now you are no longer chasing control. You are control. The market becomes a reflection of your inner state, and when your inner state is calm, disciplined, and detached, your results follow naturally. Trading becomes effortless, life becomes simple. In that freedom, you find the space to perform at your highest level consistently, calmly, and without fear.